Good morning, everybody. We're back here again on the MJT Football channel. We're giving our top 10 fantasy football quarterbacks today. This is the start of our positional rankings. We've done the math. By the time the season starts and by the time you guys have all done your drafts, we have gone through every single position. This week we're doing quarterbacks. Like I said, next week we'll do running backs, receivers, tight ends, and then get you guys ready for the draft from there. And we'll be doing more mock drafts on the channel as well, so make sure you guys subscribe, put notifications on. I'm joined by the J with the J and the T in the MJT, Joe Morley Sports, Tony Tucker. I'm excited to see your guys' list today because quarterbacks is a topic that a lot of people don't give the proper importance that it deserves. This is an important part in your lineup because there's only so many guys that are going to produce at a level of a starter at the quarterback position. So I'm pumped to see what you guys think. Joe Morley, I know you're looking at your phone right now, but how you doing? Say hi to the beautiful people out there and tell them that you're
I'm not looking at my phone. I'm still making my list. I'm still making my list. Like, it changes all the time, Mike, in fantasy football.
I'm just going to say take Derek Carr off the list. Take Aiden O'Connell off the list. Jimmy G, back of the line. Don't do any of this nonsense today, okay?
This is why I write in pencil, so I can erase, change it, because fantasy football, anything can happen within, especially at training camp. An injury can happen. Somebody goes down, and you're changing it. So I'm like, I just want to outsmart Tony Tucker today. Can I be smarter than Tony Tucker in the top 10 quarterbacks in fantasy football? That's it. That's all I need. On a Saturday morning, I need to wake up and be smarter than Tony Tucker.
That's kind of the goal every day, right? Just to go after Tony Tucker. But yeah, or maybe you might go to training camp and just get completely soured by an entire offense. But we're going to talk about that some other time. Tony Tucker, how are you doing today? Say hi to the people. Are you excited about this quarterback list?
I am. I think that it's great. Joe, it really saddens me that you're setting yourself up for failure to try and sound smarter than me about fantasy football. It has not worked for you in the past. I do not believe it'll work for you going forward. When we get to honorable mentions, I have one that I am actually genuinely going to put out there that I think is going to be like, no, this is crazy. Why would you say that? But we did this last year with the Jalen Hurts in our QB rankings. And now the guy's like in the top 3 of everybody's rankings. I'm telling you, there's a guy that's coming, and he's going to put up some nice numbers this year.
Got some underrated gems here from Tony Tucker. Let's get into it. But first, everyone, make sure you like the video, you're subscribed to the channel, and have the notifications on because we do a lot of live streams. I know this is a pre-recorded show today, and we appreciate your guys' thoughts in the comment section as well. Whose list did you think was the best? So watch to the end, check out our list, maybe drop a vote down there, or just any kind of opinions on our takes on today's show. All right, we're going to start with honorable mentions. Then we'll give you 6 through 10 each, and then we'll give you 5 through 1. So we're going to periodically work our way there. I'll give you guys my 3 honorable mentions. I have 7, but I don't want to take them all from you. If we leave some of my guys off the honorable mentions, I'll add it to the end. But my top 3 honorable mentions go to Tua, who I think can sincerely finish inside the top 7 if he's healthy all year. But that's a big if. Kirk Cousins, who I'm a little bit concerned about the situation, not necessarily his performance and his play, but just how committed are the Vikings to Kirk on a 1-year deal, and how patient are they going to be throughout the season as we work into it before they start looking around and see if there's any offers for him at midseason. And then Daniel Jones at 13, who I think has a lot of rushing upside and has been lighting up camp according to all the reports. Saquon's back, which helps his value out a lot on those checkdowns because Saquon gets Danny Dimes a lot of yardage in the yak after he catches the ball. And also Daniel Jones is a guy that's inheriting Darren Waller from Derek Carr. We've seen some big seasons out of Darren Waller, and that helps out the quarterback's yardage numbers and touchdown numbers. And I think that Danny Dimes is just edging a few other guys that I would like to give honorable mentions to, but I'm going to leave it open so you guys maybe can mention these guys. But we'll go to Joe first. So I'm very interested, Joe. Any honorable mentions that are left off your top 10 that you want to give a shout-out here before we get into it?
Well, Tua, you already mentioned Tua, so I'm with you with Tua. I'm with you with Kirk Cousins because Kirk Cousins is always somebody that I like to steal late in the draft, right? If you don't get a top quarterback, you wait for a guy like Kirk Cousins, especially if you take Justin Jefferson number 1. Why not wait for Kirk Cousins to get him later on? I don't know if he'll be top 10, and I probably started liking him even more this year just because I've been watching the quarterback and, you know, how good he is on there and just what he provides there. So I like him. One guy I was going to bring up was Kenny Pickett. of the Pittsburgh Steelers, because I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be a little bit better this year compared to last year. And Kenny Pickett in the last 8 games of last season made a dramatic step forward. He only threw 2 picks within those last 8 games. The Steelers turned it around. They went from 2-7 to 9-8 to finish off the year. So Kenny Pickett, and they improved their offensive line. And George Pickens, if you believe in George Pickens and what the wide receiver position can do down there, I think Pittsburgh offense is going to take a step forward. I don't know if Kenny Pickett will be – he's a mobile quarterback, right? So if we like mobile quarterbacks, that's more points for us on fantasy weekend too.
Yeah, Kenny Pickett's an interesting guy this year, especially because you get him for free. Also, you don't have to draft him early. You can get him in your last round or off waiver wire maybe after a couple of weeks. But it is interesting because the Steelers have kind of flipped that receiver room situation. It went from Antonio Brown and Juju to just Juju, and it was kind of a little bit lackluster. They brought Chase Claypool in. That was pretty much a failure, and they were stuck in a position where it was Deontay Johnson and nobody. But now all of a sudden you turn around and you see Pat Freiermuth there, George Pickens there, Deontay is still there. And they got some underrated young guys behind those guys as well. Najee's a fine receiver out of the backfield. Like now all of a sudden it's loaded. Tony, any reaction to Joe's list or just hop into yours?
They got that little Austin, that speedy guy from last year, from like Sam Houston or whatever, and like which one?
Calvin Austin.
Calvin Austin, yeah, I think so. But he was somebody I was hoping the Chargers would get later. I like the Pickett one. I like the Daniel Jones one. I think Daniel Jones is. He just has to play better. Like we do this thing where like we know what he is, he can improve, but if you're getting that kind of money and it's causing rifts with the rest of your team and Saquon pretty much for the other team, you got to play better. Kirk Cousins was at number 9 when I started my list, and then I realized if I don't put Joe Burrow somewhere in my top 10, then people are going to freak out. So Burrow moved back in, Cousins went out. So he's my number 11. He's like my 10A. He's in there. But the person I was talking about before, and I know this is going to sound wild, Samuel P.W. Howell for the Washington soon-to-be-changed Commanders. Like, he's in a situation where I think the defense is going to be good enough to get them the ball, get them turnovers, and then also on top of it, like, he's more mobile. So if he ends up having, like, 400 to 500 rushing yards this year, I'm not surprised about that. Also getting some stealing some rushing touchdowns. And then he's got great weapons at wide receiver. So even if it's like, you're like worried that he's not going to be able to throw touchdowns, or like, I just think it could be one of those years where they're fighting, staying in games, and he is every week finishing inside the top 8. And by the end of the year, that's all you need. He may never put up a week where it's 5 or 6 touchdowns, but if every week he's averaging 22 points, at the end of the year, he'll finish somewhere in the top 10 of fantasy quarterbacks. And I think he's going to be somebody that people are like, oh, this person's not working out. The Cowboys offense is terrible. Burrow's injury is worse than we thought it was. So Sam Howell's my real honorable mention for this.
Eric Bieniemy going to work magic down there in Washington for Tony.
There's an interesting stat linked to this that I found. I don't remember the exact number. This always happens too, where I remembered enough to put importance on it, but don't remember the stat enough to remember the exact stat. There's an X amount of year streak going on right now where a second-year quarterback has broken out and been a top 12 fantasy quarterback, and the options are very limited this year. Kenny Pickett, Sam Howell,
Desmond Ridder.
I mean, the list is very short of second-year QBs, so if that streak's going to continue, it's got to be one of those guys.
It could be Brock Purdy too. Like easily, if Brock stays healthy, he could throw 35 touchdowns this year.
Be an edge of he could be a guy any given week that's a QB, top 5 QB.
Yeah, but the only reason I'm putting him in that conversation where it's worthy is I think the rushing is something that we're underrating for him. Like I think his mobility will be able to steal him about 50 points. And if you can get those extra 4 points rushing each week from him, and then he's going to add 3, 4, 5 touchdowns rushing, I think he could be a sneaky play, sneaky pickup.
And the thing about Washington is that they've been ready for a quarterback. I'm not going to say like Denver, ready to go for a Super Bowl with a quarterback, but ready to compete in the NFC, especially NFC East, with a quarterback. So they've just been looking for their guy. They've had the pieces around him. They've been decent in recent years with Heineke and fill in the blank, Carson Wentz, and they've been carried by the defense a little bit, but Terry McLaurin's still there. Logan Thomas is going to be hopefully healthier this year. They got a good 1-2 with Gibson and B-Rob. I don't know. I just feel like Washington could be beneficial.
Jahan Dotson's coming into year 2. He was nice last year. They still have Curtis Samuel. Like, there's a lot of weapons in this offense, and I think it's going to be a little more run heavy, some easy play action throws for him downfield to Terry McLaurin. Like, I think Washington's going to be better than people are giving him credit for.
Yeah, and
you want to crown him, Tony? Crown him.
Emmanuel Forbes has a massive opportunity to just completely make me look stupid.
You guys hate on Forbes. I'm all over the corner.
Joe, let's get into it.
I think there's a big misconception out there about our reaction to some of the draft picks. It's not that we don't like players; it's the position that they were taken. It's draft pick, Tony. So Forbes was one of those guys that we liked, but just not at 19 overall. 19 or 20 overall? Come on.
I think he was like 17 or 16.
That's a whole other story. That's not on topic at all. I'm sorry for bringing it up. Let's keep it going here. Joe, do you have 10 through 5 ready or 10 through 6?
Hell yes, I do.
All right, fire.
Coming at me like I'm not ready for this show, Mike. I'm always ready. I'm a Raider fan. We get stuff done. What you laughing about, Tony? Shut up over there. Anyway, here's my 10 through 6. Fantasy quarterbacks 10 through 6. Right here. Number 10 in Detroit, Jared Goff as their number 10 overall fantasy quarterback. He had the number 1 offense for a lot of years. Great wide receivers. They're going to be passing the ball. They drafted Gibbs saying, hey, he's going to catch the ball in the backfield. So, of course, they're going to have a passing offense up there. So, Jared Goff, and you can get him relatively cheap in most drafts. Number 9, you're probably going to hate on this one. And Eagle fans, shut your eyes because I'm saying Jalen Hurts is going to fall to number 9. Number 8, I have Josh Allen as the fantasy quarterback at number 8. Number 7, Patrick Mahomes. And number 6, Joe Burrow. Who the hell's in your top 5? I'll let you know in a little bit. But right now, that's my bottom 5.
What did you just say? Wait. Are you joking?
Am I joking? You wish I was. But Jared Goff, number 10. Jalen Hurts, number 9. Josh Allen, number 8. Patrick Mahomes, number 7. And Joe Burrow is number 6. Why aren't we dropping Patrick Mahomes? Why are we building Patrick Mahomes up? And we're talking about all year is how his wide receiver position isn't good. So we're just expecting him to go out there and put 40 touchdowns up with this shitty-ass wide receiver core? Come on.
Yeah.
I did drop
Patrick Mahomes might win games, but we're talking about fantasy football today. We're talking about fantasy football stats, not winning games. We're talking about fantasy football.
Spoiler, I did drop Patrick Mahomes on my list as well. This is
yeah, I did too. But so I want everybody to Google. I think it's called dyscalculia or something. I don't know. It's people who are dyslexic with numbers. Joe's numbers might be off because that is insane. How does Burrow?
Let's just wait, Tony. Let's just wait until we get to our top 5 because he basically just listed my top 5 as his second half of the list. So
exactly.
Talk about them all at once. Give yours.
Here's the thing with Joe's list. He is going to say the reason that Justin Fields is number 1 on my list is because of his rushing ability, but then puts Joe Burrow ahead of all the other guys that are going to give you some rushing in the bottom 10.
Is Joe Burrow 100% healthy right now?
No.
How much time is Joe Burrow going to miss this year?
0 games.
You don't know that. You were talking about Cooper Kupp yesterday and his hamstring and not wanting to draft Cooper Kupp because of his hamstring. Then this is a calf injury that could affect him the whole season, and we're going to crown Joe Burrow like he's going to come back. He's going to miss all of preseason, and then he's going to come back, and we're going to be like, he doesn't have a running game because we know Joe Mixon has taken a step back, so he's going to have to throw the ball, but he doesn't know the offense. He has to go in there and learn it and get better with these receivers again. Come on, the only guy he's going to throw it to is Jamar Chase, who might not even be out there all season.
I am 99.9% sure that if this calf strain happened in practice when there was no cameras there and it wasn't training camp, and they weren't being precautious, if this happened on Monday at practice or Tuesday at practice in the regular season, Burrow will play on Sunday. Lock it in. Guaranteed. And he probably would throw for 350 yards.
I should have moved Jared Goff up on that list.
Yeah,
I really liked Goff on the list right there. Like, that's the one. But then when you went Hurts, Allen, Mahomes, and then Burrow in front of him, Burrow offers nothing with his legs. Like, what did he have rushing last year? Like 200 yards?
Just hit me. Boom, boom.
Hey, I don't care. I'm going to Burrow to number 10. I don't care the order. That's just the way I put it. He's in the bottom 5 of my top 10. If you want to move Burrow and change him with Hurts, you change him with Hurts. I don't care. That's the bottom 5 of my fantasy top 10.
Well, I can't wait to get to the top 5, Joe. Tony, let's hear your bottom 5 of the 10.
So my 6 through 10 is Tua at 10, Burrow at 9, Prescott at 8, Trevor Lawrence at 7, and Herbert at 6. So I have, for fantasy purposes, the only reason Tua made it in at number 10 over Kirk Cousins or Goff is because those guys have special playmakers. Like, you got Justin Jefferson, you got Amon-Ra St. Brown, but he has Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Like, and if he can just stay healthy, if he can stay healthy, I think that the offense can put up really crazy numbers. Like, it's just the thing about health, where each week he can be throwing for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns every single week. He doesn't even need to add anything with his legs. And some weeks, those numbers are going to be 4, 5, 6 touchdown games from Tua. So I put him in there at 10. I think that there's a real nice floor because of how much talent is around the offense. We didn't even talk about the running game and everything else. The other person I want to highlight real quick in this area, Prescott was a person where I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know. Like, it should be good because of the team that he has around him. That's the only thing that I can say. Like, everything else to me points to the offense just not being as good or running differently or running some other way. But there's the idea that they're going to run the ball more with less running backs. Like, how does that work? So I would assume that he's still going to be finishing somewhere in the top 8 or 9. And I'd be happy with taking him as the 8th quarterback off the board.
I like it. What about? Okay, so for 7, what was 7 again? 7 was
Trevor Lawrence and Herbert, and that's kind of my real sweet spot right there. Is my quarterbacks that are like 6 through 7, or 6 through 8, landed somewhere on that Herbert, Lawrence, Prescott. Because those are all guys that are going in like 5th to potentially even the 7th, 8th round with Prescott or Lawrence, depending on what kind of draft you're in.
Okay, I like it. Joe?
Oh, you like that one?
Joe? Agrees with you on the Burrow take a little bit, okay? Just a little bit. Anyways, I'll give mine now. At number 10, actually, I have Deshaun Watson. It's tough. I probably won't be drafting Deshaun Watson for other reasons other than his fantasy outlook. But when you take out the return game last year, where it was just a real stinker against Houston, and they still won the game, but it was just a mess. You take out that game, he still ended up getting just over 33 chances per game to throw the ball, and that's not including his chances to run the ball. He still scored around 17 fantasy points per game, which is the same average as Trevor Lawrence over the whole season. That's not the same weight. I'm not saying that he was as good as Trevor Lawrence. Deshaun Watson was not as good as he can be. I'm just looking at that opportunity and that little bit of production that he did show and a little bit of improvement in each game. If he can get back after a full offseason to at least 80% of what he was before, with this amount of opportunity, with this amount invested in him, he's going to be a fantasy producer, especially down the stretch of the season if you lose your quarterback and you need someone. I think Deshaun Watson is going to finish right around 10 to 12, and I think it's a pretty safe bet. Another guy that I think everyone's just kind of forgetting about, and he's going in round 9, Aaron Rodgers, guys, at number 9. What are we doing here? I know that people don't like Rodgers, but he's back with Hackett, where he won multiple MVPs. He's in an offense that has so many receivers. He went from one of the the least deep wide receiver rooms in the league to one of the most deep wide receiver rooms in the league. When they were showing it on the Hall of Fame game last night, the receivers on this team, I was like, they're going to have to cut some of these guys. They're going to have to cut a lot of these receivers, and teams are going to pick them up immediately because they're borderline starters in the NFL. I think Rodgers has a very, very, very high floor. I think he's finishing.
Didn't he just bring the receivers over from Green Bay? It's the same room.
No, he did not. It's not the same. You are disrespecting Garrett Wilson, first of all. I'm just going to put that out there right now. And I think this team's going to get Dalvin Cook, who isn't going to like help the quarterback out a ton, but he's a screen monster. So maybe he can give Aaron Rodgers a few more touchdowns that way. I got Aaron Rodgers at 9. All right. I don't want to hear you claiming any of my takes are crazy with Mahomes at 8. All right. And Josh Allen at 7 or whatever you said before a couple minutes ago. At 8, I have Trevor Lawrence, who I think can make a massive jump this year, be an MVP candidate. He almost threw the ball 40 times a game last year, which is huge. And Doug Peterson has basically said, we're going to keep that going. So I expect that Trevor Lawrence's fantasy production is going to go up because he's going to get better as a quarterback. And he got a huge weapon in Calvin Ridley this offseason. And also another thing that I love to see from quarterbacks, still very young, has not missed a game in his career yet. So he plays through whatever nicks and knacks you get throughout the season. At number 7, I have Justin Fields. Don't get too mad at me, Joe. Don't get too mad at me. I mean, 7 is still very high. I think Justin Fields has the potential to finish as QB1. I'm not saying that he doesn't. We got to see it as a passer. But I think Justin Fields can take that leap that Jalen Hurts took with A.J. Brown, with DJ Moore. Also, I'm all about opportunity, and that's been my biggest thing this year. I want guys that are getting a lot of chances. You combine his rushing with his passing, Justin Fields gets as much opportunity as any player in the league, not just quarterbacks. And same opinion for Lamar Jackson. I think that they are going to throw the ball more this year, and I have Lamar Jackson above Justin Fields at 6, I believe. I was at 7, right? I'm losing track where I was. Yes. So Lamar Jackson is my final quarterback in this category. At number 6, I just think that as long as he's healthy, he's a safe QB1 every single week just because of what he does on the field and how much opportunity he gets. He's so talented. Even in 2022, with the injuries, he scored over 20 fantasy points per game. He's going to have similar output this year, but a way, way better weapon core around him. I have him as low as 6. I would have him above some of the guys I have in the top 5 if he didn't have the injury issue. So that's a concern. And he's going around 4, so that's a concern. It's a little early for me to draft him, but I still think he deserves a spot in the top 7 and even possibly in a lot of people's top 5. Go ahead, Joe.
No, you guys have boring top 5s or bottom 5s. I'm just saying, like, you got to be.
So I'll just run it again real quick. Just say it all at once. 10, Deshaun Watson. 9, Aaron Rodgers. 8, Trevor Lawrence. 7, Justin Fields. 6, Lamar Jackson.
So I'm going to go out on a limb and say none of us have Geno Smith in our top 5, right?
He's an honorable mention. I didn't bring him up. I should have brought him up.
So Geno Smith was top 5 last season. And none of us are bringing him up in the top 10. I'm just giving Geno Smith a little bit of love out there. Not saying that we're wrong or right about it, but that's how good of a season Geno Smith had last season for the Seattle Seahawks over there. But I'm just throwing it out there, giving him a little bit of love.
Well, is he not in your top 5?
No, he's not in my top 5. No.
Okay.
I just wanted to throw it out there before I get into it because I was looking at last year's top 10 and trying to compare it. So when we get to it, you know what I mean? What people think
I have no clue who's going to be in your top 5. Only the person I know is Fields. Because we've thrown Kirk off because he's an honorable mentions. And now we've thrown Geno off.
Well, it'll be Herbert, Fields.
Don't give away my top 10. You don't go and act like you know me.
So I just want to say this about Mike's list real quick. The Aaron Rodgers thing, Mike, it's not happening.
32 touchdowns, 4,200 yards, 5 interceptions, or whatever the fuck that he did before.
I don't think it's top 10. I don't think he's top 10. Deshaun Watson, I could see it. Geno. There's too many people that are in that area that I think are going to have more touchdowns than Aaron Rodgers. We saw him last year. He wasn't very good. He didn't throw the ball for more than like 200 yards a game. And this offensive line is not better than it was. The Jets are going to win games, but I don't think that it's going to be with Aaron Rodgers lighting up the scoreboard and like lighting up the stat sheet.
And Aaron Rodgers would
this will be one that we come back and look at because I think last year's lack of throwing, and if you go and watch the tape, you can tell something's wrong. And if you compare it to even just, I know it's training camp clips, you can still tell how much zip there is on the ball now compared to last year with the broken thumb on the throwing it.
Yeah, you don't think Rivers can still spin it?
Probably. Yeah, probably. Maybe when he's under fire, it'll be different. So we'll come back. We'll see. But I'm pretty sure that I see Rodgers highlights coming out. I've seen like 20 now. The Jets are really hyping this up. I see the same Rodgers from 2 years ago.
We saw highlights of Tua come out last year, and we saw highlights of Drew Lock, who didn't even start last year, coming out in training camp, and we were like, "Oh, those are good throws." Come on.
How many MVPs those guys?
There's hundreds of plays that happen at practice, and they're picking 1 or 2 plays to put out on the highlight, and you're like, "Damn."
I mean, I've seen a lot. The Jets, I think the Jets have output the most so far out of all the teams, other than the Chargers, maybe. But yeah, I mean, I understand your guys' concerns. It was ugly last year, so I understand it's a new place also, so maybe it could be a slow start. But I personally believe, especially in round 9, Aaron Rodgers is someone that people should have on their radar and not just completely forget about. He is the MVP of 2 of the past 3 seasons.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that he's not draftable, right? Like there is a thing where it's like if I'm waiting, I'll wait for Geno, Goff, and Rodgers. Like I'd be totally fine. Last year, I took first place in a league with Kirk Cousins.
Or it's like another strategy I've been telling people, because of the running back position and the committee's kind of making huge gaps from tiers, like pay attention to the quarterbacks a little bit more this year. Like if you get someone that's an injury risk, plan on another quarterback late in your draft this year. You probably shouldn't just bank on one quarterback if you get Lamar Jackson in round 4 to get you through the whole season, because simply it's not likely that he is.
Hot take alert. Daniel Jones is a better fantasy quarterback than Aaron Rodgers this year.
Well, I have him only 3. I have Daniel Jones ranked 3 spots behind Rodgers, so that's not really that hot for me. Like that could happen. I have him in the same range.
Mine's like touching the stove and like,
shit. I can't get on Tua. I can't get on the Tua train and then be like, oh no, but I don't want Aaron Rodgers because he broke his thumb last year. Like, no, I can't do that.
Broke his thumb.
I have Tua 1 slot or 2 slots behind him at 11. So they're in the same tier. All right, they're in the same tier. Joe, give yours because we're running out of time already. But
top 5? Lamar Jackson. He said he's going to throw for 6,000 yards. You add that with everything else, I'm buying it. Lamar Jackson. I don't like the Baltimore Ravens. I think they're going to be losing a lot, and they're going to have to score a lot of points. So I'll take Lamar Jackson fantasy. Dak Prescott's my next question. Even though they're going to run the damn ball down there, I call bullshit on that. You already know I've been calling bullshit on McCarthy and his offense all year. Dak's going to be throwing that ball around. I think a lot of it out to the running backs too, and Tony Pollard taking it to the house is going to help out with some of those easy touchdowns. Number 3, Trevor Lawrence. I think he makes a big leap, and that offense goes into the right direction. I've been telling you guys Trevor Lawrence and Etienne as a good combo, 1-2 running back and quarterback would be a great spot. Number 2, I have Herbert. You don't tell me that the Chargers aren't going to be down there just throwing that damn ball around, throwing that ball every single play. Austin Eckler, who you don't want to be here, we're not going to make you be here, and we're not even going to give you the damn ball because we're going to be throwing the ball to all our receivers, Austin. And then you'll force your way out and take your pay cut again next year. And number 1, I have Justin Fields, who already said he's coming out and throwing for 4,000 yards plus. He got a new wide receiver core in there. They improved that offensive line. Last year, Justin Fields was number 6. He missed a couple games, and all he had to do was run the damn ball. So if you guys know a little bit about my top 5, you guys want to make a little bit about my top 5, only thing I like about them, and I guess Jalen Hurts would be right there. So maybe I should have put Jalen Hurts a little bit higher, but they're not afraid to, when they get down to the red zone, to throw that damn ball and score some touchdowns. And that's what I'm at. If you can score me some touchdowns, I'm going for that. Jalen Hurts, I'm just not buying Jalen Hurts getting 17 rushing touchdowns again.
Yeah, I really like this list, Joe, a lot, and I gave you a hard time because where it is, like where you put all 3 of those guys. Like you basically took 3 guys that I think are clear-cut top 5 draft picks, and you put them all down in the bottom. But the thing with Herbert is I think that we saw the running go down last year, and a lot of it's because of the injury. I think that the running is completely gone again just in this offense because he's not going to really need to. Like maybe once in a while to keep him honest, but I think he really does want to play football like Peyton Manning, and he's got the ability to do it. He just has to have the mental side of the game, and when that catches up, well, the rest of the league's on notice. It's going to be rough for the entire league as soon as that part catches up. But I like it, and you'll see where we have some similarities coming up here.
Yeah, and I'm not worried about Herbert. Like Herbert's like the least running quarterback in that whole group that I just mentioned, and I'm not worried about his legs because I want Herbert who puts up 50 touchdowns a year. You know what I mean? That has that potential to have that Peyton Manning 70 touchdown season. Come on, they're running 4 wide receiver formations in training camp. Is that what you said, Mike? 4 wide receivers, all 6'3" or above. Come on, throw that ball up. Kellen Moore is going to throw that ball, and you're not going to hand off to Austin Eckler, so you're going to get cheap touchdowns throwing it out to the running backs as well. So I'll take touchdowns because they add up just as much as that's 60. I mean, you got a 6-point touchdown league, and I get 3 touchdowns a game more than somebody who's running the ball. I'll take that too.
Yeah, and we were talking about practice, but at least I've actually been to a practice and watched the whole thing, eyes glued to the action. And one thing I've noticed that Herbert's worked on, especially this year, is those high away from the DB throws. He'll be very safe this year. He's going to be safe with the football, and it's either going to be incomplete or a big play whenever he targets those big receivers down the field. Also, Herbert has a QB2 finish under his belt. Yeah. That's impressive. So, Tony, go ahead and give your list.
Yeah, we'll get to that another time. Okay, top 5 is Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, and Justin Fields. So Jalen Hurts there's this idea that he's going to develop more into a passer. I don't necessarily think that he's going to develop more or do something different. I think the Eagles are about scoring points and winning football games. And they're still going to do tush push, and he's still going to vulture a lot of touchdowns when they're inside the 5-yard line. He still has 2 dynamic wide receivers and a top 5 tight end. Spoiler alert when we get to the tight end rankings. Like, he is ready to continue to do everything he did and not miss a beat. And he was almost healthy for the entire season last year. Like, he made it further than a lot of these other running quarterbacks did. That's the thing, is when I make my list, mine is about the risk that I'm putting involved. Like, if I'm drafting these guys, I'm drafting for them to like set all-time records. I want the guy that is going to rush for potentially 800 to 1,000 yards, throw 35 touchdowns, run 10. Like, I'm drafting all of these guys that are up here in the top 5. Like, Mahomes could rush for 500 yards, just scrambling around. Josh Allen's already done that. Lamar Jackson, Hurts, and Fields have all done that. They're all going to get you potentially 10 rushing touchdowns with 500 yards and throw the ball for 3,500. I think the player that has been most intriguing to me is when I get to that 5th round, and if I'm drafting somewhere near the end of the 5th round, and Fields or Lamar Jackson are still on the board, like, I'm having a hard time not drafting them, especially if Herbert's still there too, because I want Herbert on my team to take it, but I just see the ceiling for those other guys at just for fantasy purposes, just so much higher. Like, these guys are there. And I do think Justin Fields is going to have a monster season, a absolute monster of a season.
Me too. I agree with that. And I think that he has potential to finish as QB1. So I don't hate you guys putting him all the way up there on the top of the list.
Yeah,
like, everyone acts like this guy sucks at throwing the ball. And yeah, it was ugly last year, but it was ugly because the offense was ugly. The passing offense was bad all around. They were trading for wide receivers, desperate Hail Marys in the middle of the season because they had no one out there other than Darnell Mooney. And Darnell Mooney, to me, is a slot receiver / wide receiver 2. He's not a wide receiver 1 caliber guy. And now you throw DJ Moore into the mix. Justin Fields coming out of the draft was the most accurate quarterback in his class. So
they committed resources everywhere, Mike. Wide receiver. They gave Komet a contract extension. They got offensive linemen. Like, it's
Running back.
everywhere. Running backs. There's a commitment to it. It might not be glorious at the beginning, but eventually that thing is going to start to hum, and it's going to be more on Eberflus. It's going to be a situation like what the Chargers are in. You have a defensive head coach. Your defense is going to need to be playing catch up with what your offense is doing.
Yeah. I just hope to God that he's smart, man. And when you get opportunities to slide. Like, this guy, so many times where he's doing this. And when you're doing this in the NFL and turning like this to run that way, it's just waiting for something disastrous to happen to you.
Agreed.
When you're running somewhere that you are not looking already, you are asking for your head to get taken off at some point. And his head has been taken off.
I just wish I had Fields in like a dynasty league.
Yeah, eat one. Eat one.
You guys don't know, for context, these guys did a deal last year, and Fields is on Joe's team, not on Tony's team. And that was great. All right, I'll give my top 5 here. I have Joe Burrow at 5. He's been the model. I mean, I should say the entire Cincinnati Bengals offense since they drafted Jamar Chase has been a model of consistency in fantasy football. T. Higgins has been a consistent wide receiver, too, although his target share has been low. Jamar Chase has been a consistent wide receiver 1 when healthy. Joe Burrow has been a consistent top 10 QB every single week since he's entered the league, but especially since Jamar Chase has gotten on this team. And he's at 5. I think his floor is extremely low. I'm not scared of an injury that would land him as probable if it happened during the week for a game. So I'm not really worried about it. At 4, I have Justin Herbert for all the same reasons you guys already gave. I think he can go for 50 touchdowns. I really do, especially all-purpose touchdowns. Because, yeah, he's probably not going to run the ball. I agree with you, Tony. I think that they're emphasizing that they want to keep him safe. He does not need to be a guy that carries this team on the ground. But like you said, Joe, when we get close to the goal line, all bets are off. Herbert will run it in too. And if Herbert has 5 rushing touchdowns and 43 passing touchdowns, probably going to be QB1. Just saying. And then I have Jalen Hurts at 3. Just can't deny what he did last year. And this offense is coming back the exact same. Running it back, trying to do it again. And, yeah, maybe he won't run for 17 touchdowns again, but I think for where he doesn't run for touchdowns, probably pass for touchdowns with all these receivers and how good I think Devonta Smith's going to be this year. At 2, I have Patrick Mahomes. I dropped him. He's finished QB1 basically every single year of his career. Joe dropped him to 8. I dropped him to 2 because he's Patrick Mahomes. The problem is I don't draft quarterbacks in the second round. I just don't unless it is a phenom. And no one has existed in my fantasy football career yet that warrants a second-round pick. I will draft him in the 3rd round if they fall, but not the 2nd round. That needs to be a running back or a receiver, in my opinion. And same thing for Josh Allen. Even though he is being drafted in the 2nd round, he's my number 1 quarterback. Most involved player in his offense ever, almost. Most opportunities per game ever in the history of the sport when you combine his rushing and his passing attempts. And I looked at this stat. Since his breakout a couple years ago, he's only finished out the top 12 in fantasy football 3 times, 3 weeks since his breakout. So that's nuts to me. I mean, that is insane. It's hard to do. Hard to be that consistent forever. And I am scared of him getting hurt with the way he plays. I always have been scared of him getting hurt with the way he plays. But I cannot deny the fact that he has not missed a game yet. So it's tough. I won't draft him that high. If he falls to the 3rd round, I'm in. Like in the Vegas League, he fell to the 3rd round. Remember, Tony, last year?
Yeah. It was
so
great for you.
At that point, I will be in. But in the 2nd round, you got to go one of those running backs or receivers. It's very important. There's other quarterbacks that you can get that will finish in a range close enough to Josh Allen to where it's more valuable for you to wait. But he's number 1 quarterback probably this year, in my opinion. So, yeah, I'll give you the list more. Let me just give it in order because people like to just hear it in order. Joe Burrow at 5, Justin Herbert at 4, Jalen Hurts at 3, Patrick Mahomes at 2, Josh Allen at 1.
Can't knock it. Can't knock it. I mean, it is your top 5, but it's not like Fields, Herbert, Lawrence, Dak, and Lamar. So I mean, it's okay. It's a good top 5. It's not great.
I have all those guys in the top 10, but Dak. So we generally agree, Joe, that these are the good quarterbacks this year. Okay, let's shake on it.
Well, yeah, and that's what we've always said about rankings. It's as long as your top 10 is around the same. It doesn't matter what order you have, as long as you got the same people in there. You can argue and change up the order all you want, but as long as we're all around the same spot, it's what's different. But like you said about Allen and some of these other quarterbacks, and what we thought about CMC is like it sucks because we always bring injury into fantasy football. But if you're drafting to avoid injury, and that's the only reason, you're going to let somebody get a great player because you're afraid of injury. Go after that guy, still grab him, no matter what the injury is, and deal with it. If the injury comes, it happens. But I can't believe Jimmy G didn't make these lists.
I will say that I put a lot more weight on injuries and past injuries and history and even just guys that have burned me personally in the past in my first 5 rounds. Then after that, I kind of cut it loose and go, you know what? I'm willing to accept a little bit of injury risk for a value.
Yeah, and I still won't draft a quarterback. Even though we listed all these guys and I really believe in Justin Fields and what he could do this season and be the top guy, I still won't draft Justin Fields unless I can get him in the 3rd round or something like that. Like, I still hate – I even saying that, like, made me sick a little bit. Like, I don't like taking quarterbacks early. I don't like it. But it seems like this year, if you guys are playing fantasy, you guys have done mock drafts this year, wide receivers and quarterbacks have been going a lot earlier than in the last couple of years. So, I mean, you're going to have to take some of these guys early, or you can wait for, like, the Jared Goffs and the Kirk Cousins and stuff like that later on.
Essentially, if I don't get Herbert, I'm not drafting a quarterback until I get down to that 10 through 15 range on my list.
Yeah. That tier jump to where the value kind of lines up with their ADP. Yeah, I agree with you guys.
I take it back. I would also draft Trevor Lawrence.
There you go. So you're drafting number 2 and number 3 on my list. Thanks, Tony, for making me look smart today. I'm smarter than Tony Tucker. Smarter than Tony Tucker.
You are smart, Joe. Let's just go around, give the full 10, Joe, and then we're gonna wrap this thing up.
Smarter than Tony Tucker.
Give the full 10, Joe. Give the full 10, and we'll wrap this thing up.
Number 10, Jared Goff. Number 9, Jalen Hurts. Number 8, Josh Allen. 7, Mahomes. 6, Burrow. 5, Lamar Jackson. 4, Dak Prescott. 3, Trevor Lawrence. 2, Justin Herbert. And number 1, Justin Fields.
There you go. React to Joe's list in the comments, Tony. Let's see if yours is better than his for the people.
Undoubtedly is. Number 10, Tua. Number 9, Burrow. 8, Prescott. 7, Lawrence. 6, Herbert. 5, Allen. 4, Mahomes. 3, Jackson. 2, Hurts. 1, Fields.
And I have 10, Watson. 9, that man, Aaron Rodgers. 8, Lawrence. 7, Fields. 6, Jackson. 5, Burrow. 4, Herbert. 3, Hurts, 2, Mahomes, and 1, I have Josh Allen. So there's our list, guys. Go ahead and leave your reactions in the comments. Appreciate you tuning in to this one. Hope you guys have a great weekend from here. We'll see you guys next week on the Speakeasy. What position do you guys want to do next? Should we take a vote in the comments, or do you have a specific position you guys want to do?
Somebody tell us in the comments.
Yeah, let us know. Leave a request at what position's next in the comments for next week's episode, and we will be back here on MJT Football. Just make sure you subscribe to the channel. Notifications on, and you like the video.